Well, hello. Today I wanted to share with you my gardening story, how I got into gardening, and eventually how I started teaching gardening and teaching others about four-season gardening and how to use color. So, my name's Amy. I'm from prettypurpledoor.com. I help beginner landscaping gardeners design impressively beautiful gardens that bring color to your landscape in all four seasons, that show off your personality, and that suit your lifestyle. So I like to start out by saying that I used to suck at gardening, and I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm kind of making fun of myself, but I did. I didn't know anything. Now I have a diploma in garden design and maintenance. I'm also a professional graphic designer, and obviously I love gardens and gardening. So it might surprise you to hear that I didn't always have a passion for gardening. In fact, back in 2012, when I bought my house, I didn't have a clue what to plant, but I really wanted to fit into the neighborhood. You can see the picture is my house, the one of the first photos I took where there's absolutely no landscaping and it just sort of looked run down, but so I wanted to fit in. It's almost like I had something to prove to my neighbors. I think most of all for me, I wanted to be proud of my landscape, but I didn't have any experience in gardening, which made it really difficult to get started. Personally, like sprucing up my front landscape came from my internal inherent need to seek others' approval. I guess it was a bit of insecurity, to be honest with you. I was young and I was single. I was under 30 and a single young woman when I bought this house. And I felt this like insane pressure to keep up with the Joneses, to maintain status quo. And, I've always been an overachiever. So having anything less than perfect was like a real hit to my ego. And it needed to be like immediately fixed. So that's just like my weird personality. So since I didn't know anything about gardening, I begged my sister-in-law to take me to the nursery, and I made her pick practically every single plant for me. To be honest, it felt terrible. It felt like a cop-out coming from like a graphic designer and a self-proclaimed creative person, but it was what I had to do. So I put the landscaping in. You can see in this picture, you could barely see it because it was so small, but I crossed landscaping off of my to-do list, and I really thought that was the end of that, and that was it. But after a few weeks, the unexpected happened. I was really shocked by what happened. All of the plants started to like thrive and grow and bloom. It looked amazing. It was so bright and colorful. I found myself like going outside in the front yard every day to sort of take it all in and discover these new little surprises of a new thing popping up. On one of those days, I stepped back and something hit me. I've always loved to paint, and it was one of those like aha moments for me. And I remember looking at this exact photo that's on the screen right now, and I noticed how the purple clematis vine was playing off the rhododendron flowers in the background, how that green-yellow color in the sedum angelina was making the colors of the purples and the blues next to it pop. And I literally like blurted out of my mouth, "This is like a work of art." And I finally realized, that's when it hit me, that gardening is like having a living canvas, an ever-changing canvas of color and shape and texture and form and movement, all of the things that I love about art and creativity, they all perfectly aligned with this beautiful garden planting that I cared nothing about until this moment. And all that was about to change, because that's when I decided I'm going to turn this garden into my canvas and create a beautiful sanctuary of my dreams. And I'm going to do it. That's it. I'm hooked. So I got so excited as I talk about this, because I remember the joy that I felt inside my heart that day when I started on this journey. But even though that spark was ignited in me, I still had so much to learn. And even though I knew a lot about design, working in a 3D world where plants are all different sizes and shapes and they go in and out of bloom at different times, it made it really overwhelming to tackle. I spent hours and hours and hours reading books, working in my yard. I spent tons of money buying new plants. I then spent tons of time waiting for them to grow, and then I would realize that the ones I picked looked like crap together. There was a point where I nearly gave up and I was like, just whatever, I'm just going to stop doing this because it's so frustrating. So it came to a point where I had to make a decision. Should I call it quits or should I rip everything out and start over? And as you probably guessed, I decided to give it one more try. And this time I actually buckled down. I thought about my decisions and I made a plan. I made a bunch of these garden planning worksheets to keep myself organized. I started to make like lists of criteria for choosing plants based on conditions and color and shape of the plants. I made each individual plant sort of quote unquote earn their place in the landscape. So that was a big factor of, is this worthy of my garden? And from this, I was able to come up with like a system, and it's a repeatable system. And I call it now my garden design framework. At the time, it was just me trying to figure out gardening. But this is what I use to make sure that I have color in my garden in every single season, whether it's spring, late spring, early summer, midsummer, early fall, color all the time. And to also make sure that the plants that are blooming at certain times will look good together and not clash with each other. So the process for me of coming up with this framework, it really eliminated that overwhelming feeling that I was having. And now, instead of someone else picking plants for me, I'm empowered to make my own plant choices and make my own decisions in the garden. And this is priceless. And this is why I'm doing this training, because I want this for you. I want you to be able to take a vision in your head and actually make it come to life in your garden. Gardening has become such an amazing creative outlet for me. Something that I didn't think that I would enjoy for the rest of my life, but I know that I will now. And I'm really proud of my landscape. So that's an added bonus, I guess. You might resonate with what I'm saying. You might feel similarly. You might also be thinking, so what? Like maybe you've always loved gardening and this isn't your path. Or maybe you aren't starting with a blank slate like I did with no plantings. Or maybe your reality looks a little bit like this photo, but you're pretending you're cool with it. Today I'm here to tell you that no matter where you are in your journey or where you started, design still applies to every single garden. And we all have something to learn from design. And it's not as intimidating. I swear it's not as intimidating as it sounds. So here's a quick story. This is about Michelle, who wrote me one day. She gardens in Illinois, which is Zone 5, I believe, Zone 5. Not only did this, like, your garden as a canvas idea resonate with me, but it also resonated with Michelle. After I told the story in an email about my garden being my canvas, she wrote back and she said, "It's amazing because you could have been writing about me. I felt the same way you did. I asked for help from my neighbor. Now I take great pride in my garden. I look forward to seeing perennials come up through the dark, desolate dirt to create an array of colorful art." And she said she looked forward to learning more, and she was learning so much so that she could further her backyard, quote unquote, canvas. And I thought this was great. This was finally a moment for me where I realized that there's people out there and they're like, oh my gosh, that's how I feel too. And it was a good feeling. So another story is Ronnie. He gardens in Ontario, Canada. I met Ronnie after he signed up for my email list. And he got totally hooked on gardening and design. And he said that he never read a single gardening book. He never went to school for garden design or landscaping. He had a union job that he was hating at the time and somehow stumbled across my website. And he said it changed everything for him. He discovered that he was a closet artist and actually quit his cushy union job to pursue his newfound passion as a professional self-employed gardener. So he went like total 360 from like not even knowing that all of this was a thing to actually quitting his job and doing this for a living. And he said he likes to say that he traded in pen for spade and peace of mind, which I really love. And he told me that his clients are so pleased with his work. And I loved this too. He said, "Now I whistle while I work and I'm finally happy." And he said, your site, you opened a door that probably I would have never found in a book, and thank you for that. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Ronnie and say thank you, Ronnie, for sending me this, because it's on my refrigerator right now. I printed it out and I look at it every day, and it brings purpose to my life to be able to help somebody to get to a point in their life where they're finally happy. That's amazing. So now that you know my story and a couple others, this is why I wanted to do this training. And the training is going to cover my 3 secrets that I've learned through all of the ups and downs of my gardening journey. Secret 1 is how to avoid the 2 biggest mistakes that will prevent you from creating your 4-season dream garden. Secret number 2, discover why creativity has nothing to do with designing your dream garden and what does instead. And number 3, the key to unlocking your garden's potential. Even if you have less than ideal conditions, whatever it is that you're dealing with, learn the key to unlocking the potential of your garden so that you can have your dream garden.